Most people won't learn these lessons until it is too late. How do I know that? Well, I've just finished 4 months working with people who are dying and 18 months working as a doctor, and it has completely changed my perspective on everything: relationships, life, the universe, what I want to be remembered for, but most importantly, what the hell is going on with my 20s. I feel as though I've aged about a decade in the last year in the best possible way. I've gained so much knowledge and life experience and perspective that I feel I would be doing a disservice if I did not share with you. So grab yourself a drink and a pen and paper, because we're about to break down 24 lessons for 2024 that will completely change your life. Lesson number 1, if you try to be for everybody, then you will be for nobody. But before I get into the lesson, how rude of me, I did not even introduce myself. If you are new here, my name is Faye. I'm a doctor working in London who is obsessed with self-development based on science and psychology and learning from the extremes of human emotion that I see every single day in the hospital. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, then the subscribe button is just down there. You'd be surprised how many people I met who were in the last few days, months of their life, and they found it so burdensome how many people would come knocking at the door to come and check in on them. And don't get me wrong, I do think that we have a massive loneliness issue in this country. However, I saw the other end of the spectrum where these people had been social butterflies their entire life and were such well-liked individuals that they had queues around the corner to come and visit them when they were sick. But when you're sick, you don't have the energy to put on this front anymore. You're almost forced to be the most authentic version of yourself. And the thought of all these people visiting who weren't their close inner circle and knew their true selves was extremely daunting, and it reminded me of something as a chronic people pleaser that I really struggle to implement into my own life anyway. But authenticity is like a potent insect repellent. The more you spray all over, the more you keep away the people who aren't meant for you, and you create this environment where you can be your most authentic version of yourself all of the time. 2, people pleasing is having the opposite effect. People think that by people pleasing you will get further in your relationships, your career, your friendships, but it has the opposite effect. People pleasing at its core is showing that you do not respect yourself, and by showing that you do not respect yourself, others will see that as you giving them permission to not respect you or your time as well. Number 3, 9 out of 10 times when people have negative things to say about you, it's a sign you're doing something right. This does not apply to certain situations when people are saying negative things because you're a genuinely awful person, but because you're watching this video, I'm hopeful that you're not. I've been on YouTube now for 5 years. And I think about all the years that I really wanted to start a YouTube and I didn't, because I was so scared and nervous about what people would say about me. And then I started a YouTube and there was plenty of negative things that people had to say. But 5 years down the line, I look back on the people who had negative things to say about me and the people who were nothing but supportive. And there's this clear pattern that has emerged that I'm sure won't shock any of you. The people who are living successful, fulfilled and balanced lives had absolutely nothing to say about me starting a YouTube, whereas the people who seem to be riddled with their own insecurities and shortfallings were the people who were saying, "Who does she think she is?" Tall poppy syndrome is so real, but it is reflective of them and not you. And please remember that if someone is trying to tear you down, that is a sign that you're up. You do not rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I love a vision board as much as the next girl, but if you do not have a plan in place to get there, it's useless. We can all be so good at dreaming up these big plans, but it's so much harder to put those plans in action. For me, a huge part of my system, especially as someone who spends so much time online, is having the right tools to stay organised and productive. And one tool that has been absolutely game-changing recently is the Opera One R2, Opera's latest browser. Let me show you why. First off, the split screen feature. I cannot tell you how much this has upgraded my productivity. With just a quick drag of the tab, I can have 2 tabs side by side in the window. This has been a lifesaver when I'm drafting and researching at the same time. No more juggling windows and losing track of where I am. Now let me tell you about Aria. This is Opera's built-in AI tool that takes Opera to a whole new level. Aria can literally help you generate images from scratch or help you interpret and understand an image that you upload. For example, say I need a creative visual for a project. All I have to do is type in a quick prompt into the Aria command line, and in seconds it creates a custom image for me. No extra apps, no extra tabs, it's all there. And if I upload an image, whether it's a design that I'm working on or a random screenshot, Aria can analyse it, provide context and answer specific questions about it. It's like having a 24/7 AI tool built right into my browser. I cannot tell you how much this has changed me, especially when I'm deep in creative workflow. It's intuitive, fast, and honestly kind of mind-blowing. Of course, productivity isn't just about getting stuff done, it's about creating a workspace that inspires you. With Opera's dynamic themes, you can completely change the look and feel of your browser. From animated backgrounds to custom colours and even sound effects, it's completely customizable. I've been loving the Aurora theme recently. It's clean, it's modern, and honestly makes me feel like I'm working in the future. And finally, the player feature creates the vibe. Whenever I want to listen to some music, I can control everything with this super handy pop-out player. I don't even have to open an extra app or leave the tab that I'm working in. I can literally just hover over the player to change songs. And even better, I can move the player wherever I want, inside or outside the browser. So if you're serious about upgrading your systems, and let's be honest, who isn't, I highly recommend giving the Opera One R2 browser a try. It's modern, intuitive, and honestly one of the best tools I've added to my routine. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can download it and see for yourself. Trust me, this will change how you browse, work, and stay organised. And when you try it out, let me know in the comments which feature you love the most. Lesson number 5. Imposter syndrome sometimes isn't imposter syndrome. In my first year of being a doctor, I really learned the importance of recognising when something is actually imposter syndrome versus when something isn't and you actually don't know what you're doing and you have so much to learn. Not only did that mean I learned to trust my brain again, but I also recognised how beautiful a place that is to be. How exciting for you to have so much growth ahead of you and be in exactly the right place for that to happen. Lesson number 6, just do it. Because sometimes imposter syndrome is imposter syndrome, and as a woman you can be so guilty for thinking and over-analysing to a point that you feel paralysed and you forget to do. You think so much about whether you're good enough to apply that you never apply, or you think about what the best business idea would be but you never start the business. Or you think about bringing up an uncomfortable conversation so much that you never actually say how you're feeling. Men are more likely to apply for jobs that they're underqualified for, and women are more likely to apply for jobs they're overqualified for. This overthinking and overanalyzing seems to be a symptom of perfectionism, and perfectionism is a safety blanket that keeps us trapped in our comfort zone. Just do the thing that you've been thinking about, because even if you do it and you do it badly, you'll have learned more than just letting the thing stay in your head. 7, stop exercising for how you look. In my first year as a doctor, I was so shocked when I saw the exact same patients come into the hospital week in, week out. Most of them were people with lists of chronic conditions that were about as long as my arm, and not all of those conditions are preventable, but so many of them are. So please stop exercising for how you look and attaching exercise to this visual sense of self-worth when exercise is so much more than that. Exercise so that you're able to walk your dog well into your 90s. Exercise so you're able to pick up your grandchildren. Exercise so you aren't in and out of hospital with infections in your 70s. Number 8, a little bit morbid. Think about how you will be remembered. I never really believed the saying, no one is truly gone, until I worked in palliative care. I just felt as though it was said to people who just lost someone as a pleasantry to try and help them feel better, but people really do live on in our minds when they're gone. I have so many fond memories of patients that I've cared for in the last weeks or days of their life, and I will never forget them or their stories. But no one will remember the marks you got on a test, how your CV looked, or how much money you had, but they will remember whether you made their world a better place, even if just in the tiniest way. Stop trying to look like everyone else. It's a double-edged sword. You lose your own beauty in the process of trying to fit the mold, but you also become so insecure in your own skin trying to change every little thing. Number 10, you are so bloody lucky to be alive. I know it doesn't feel like that when you've got the Sunday scaries, or when you feel you have no time, or the weather is so bloody awful you don't want to go outside. But trust me, when I was on palliative care, I saw some of the cruelest deaths. Really well-loved people who were taken away far too early, leaving this gaping hole in their families' lives. And whenever I feel these really small, silly annoyances, I think about how much all of those people would have probably given to have just one more day with their families. That one day that I am complaining so much about. I am so bloody lucky to have a job that fills me with so much stress. I am so bloody lucky. My time is filled because I'm living a full life, and I'm even so bloody lucky to feel the sensation of freezing cold rain on my skin. Lesson 11, stop trying to be more like a man to get ahead in your career. Women only really entered the workplace within the last century, which is why so much of this advice around being a boss in your career is basically just telling us all to be more masculine. In the first 2 years of being a doctor in the UK, we rotate every 4 months, which is really challenging, getting used to new environments all the time, but we get to see so many different teams and how they work. And I've worked in 2 basically all women teams, and they've been teams where emotions are unapologetically expressed. They are not a weakness. Processing them enables us to do our job better. And they were places of work which were led by compassion. We are told that to succeed in our careers, we need to be more assertive. We can't let our emotions get in the way, and that women in the workplace are bitchy. That has not been my experience at all. I think 90% of the time, workplaces need more emotional intelligence and kindness. So please remember that these traditionally feminine traits in the workplace are a strength and not a weakness. Lesson number 12. Absolutely no one cares. As a woman especially, there is so much pressure on how you look, how you dress, how you present yourself, but in the best way possible. Everyone else is so caught up in feeling anxious about how they look, how they sound, trying to put their best foot forward, that they actually don't really care what you're doing. 13, stop placing value on how you look. It's not your fault. For hundreds and hundreds of years, women's value was based on their ability to find themselves a husband. But by placing the value on how you look in your 20s, you're setting yourself up for a crash in your 40s and 50s when society dictates that your beauty has faded. Unless you learn to love yourself beyond the exterior now, you're gonna end up with a midlife crisis or a botched facelift. 14, the grass is not greener. The girlies in their 20s want the money of the girlies in their 30s, but the girlies in their 30s want the youth and freedom from their 20s. Working women want to quit their jobs to become stay-at-home mums, and the stay-at-home mums miss the independence they got from their salary. You may want the big old rock on your finger, but the wives of 30 years are bored and miss the excitement of the single life in their 20s. As a society, we need to please stop glorifying the phase of our life that we are not in and start learning to appreciate the uniqueness of wherever we are at in life before it changes and it's too late. 15, full-time employment is a scam. In the hospital, I'm faced with how short human life is every single day, and spending 5 out of 7 of your weekdays in a job you do not care about is a waste. You have 2 options. Number 1, find a job that brings you genuine fulfillment and you're passionate about and it isn't a waste of time. Or number 2, start a business that is profitable and you only have to work 2 days and you can live for the rest. I feel unbelievably lucky that I've been able to find both. 16, now is the perfect time to do the wild thing. Would I have started a business if I had a mortgage, kids to look after, elderly parents, Probably not. If you're in your 20s and you have no idea what you're doing, you have a freedom that you will probably not have ever again for the rest of your life. We get so bogged down in life milestones and where we should be. We forget how much of a burden it is to have it all figured out. Now is the perfect time to make the risky decisions that you might not want to make in your 30s. 17, don't miss out on the change advantage. I hate change. I find it so terrifying, and your 20s are full of so much change. But there's this huge overlooked advantage that so many people ignore. When the Vietnamese War was going on, a lot of American soldiers got addicted to heroin, aka one of the most addictive substances on the planet. So the US government was preparing for what they thought would be this huge heroin crisis in the United States. But actually, when these Vietnamese soldiers came back to the US, there wasn't nearly as much of a heroin problem as they had thought. Some hypothesis for why this could be is how big a role our environment plays in the formation of habits. It's also thought to be one of the reasons that rehab facilities don't work very well, because people go to rehab facilities, they detox, they don't take substances for the entire time there, and then they go back to the environment where they had the addiction, and often the addiction begins again. So if you want to start a new habit or break a bad one, not drugs guys, if you have a drugs problem, please go seek professional help, not watch videos on YouTube, but maybe like break your bad habit of overspending. The perfect time to do that is when you have a big change. So even though it might be terrifying, changes are huge opportunities. 18, there are scarier things than toxic productivity. This last year I have worked a lot. If you're new here, a little bit of background, I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I do 2 hours of work, I then go to work in the hospital, and then I come back and I do 2 extra hours of work. I set out this schedule because I find so much fulfillment from this YouTube channel, but I also find so much fulfillment from my life as a doctor, and I wanted the two to continue. This meant sacrificing being in bed from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. This is a lot. I'm not advising it. It's not sustainable. However, it is the most fulfilled I have felt in my entire life. What has broken my heart a lot as a doctor is how many people get sick just after they retire. I cannot believe how many times I've heard someone say, I only retired last year, and now they have a terminal illness, or even having a terminal illness before they retire and not getting to spend a penny of their pension that they've worked so hard towards. Yes, toxic productivity can be bad. However, I would take my ridiculous schedule every single day over working a 9 to 5 that I hate till I'm 70, just to die suddenly before I get to spend a penny of my pension. On that note, lesson 19, stop living for tomorrow. We never know what is around the corner. Stop saying that I will be happy when I earn this much, or when I weigh this much, or when I get my degree. Confront yourself with the brutal fact that you could die tomorrow, and rather than letting that fill you with anxiety and fear, channel it into making every single day fuller. 20, understand the primary colours of happiness. From what I've just said, you may be thinking, okay, fine, Faye, I will make every single day a little bit fuller by binge watching Netflix every single day. Well, my friend, let me introduce you to the 3 primary colours of happiness. First up, we have the happiness of pleasure. This is the happiness that you get from eating tasty food, socialising, binge watching Netflix under a blanket and pile of snacks. Then we have the happiness of grace. This is the happiness that comes from feeling gratitude and random acts of kindness. And finally, we have the happiness of excellence. This is the happiness that comes as a result of working towards goals that make us feel fulfilled. You need a rainbow balance of all 3 for a full, happy life. Because if you have too much pleasure, you forget to take note of the simple joys of life. Or if you are too grateful for all the small, tiny things, you lose that drive for working towards bigger goals, and you may feel unfulfilled. But too much focus on working towards these big goals, and you may forget to see your friends and let your hair down. Joy actually can come from work. For that to happen, you need to shift what work is for you. 21, the power of relationships is knowing when to quit. What I'm proudest about in my life is my relationships. But I have had a fair few toxic friends and romantic relationships in my life. Stephen Bartlett has this framework for quitting, which is generally applied to career or business things, but I think it can also be applied to relationships. I'm going to put it on screen now. And we're going to work through 2 different relationship situations. So let's apply it to a toxic friend who never seems to be happy for any of your achievements, and you always feel worse after seeing them. So are you thinking of quitting? Yes, I am. Why are you thinking of quitting? Well, it sucks. And do you believe that you can make it not suck? This is kind of debatable. I think if someone has deep-rooted issues in themselves that lead them to trying to tear you down, you probably aren't going to fix it. So quit. Now let's take a romantic relationship where you maybe have a lot of arguments. I'm going to share something personal about my relationship, and that is that probably the point in my relationship where myself and my boyfriend had the most friction was the first 1 to 2 months. Nothing serious or red flaggy. We just had different communication styles. I like speaking everything out in the open all the time, whereas he prefers to go away and think about things for a little bit. He's a big acts of service, love language kind of person, whereas you know what, I'm a big words of affirmation and big romantic gestures gal. This led to a lot of friction, but actually when we worked through it and adapted our traits slightly for the other person, it's only ever gone up since then. So why was I thinking of quitting? Probably because it was hard. And was the challenge worth the potential reward? Absolutely. Relationships are so disposable now, especially in the age of online dating where a replacement is just a click away. The greatest skill you can develop in your 20s is knowing when to quit and when something is worth sticking out. 22, train your nervous system. Speaking of disagreements, previously when I maybe get into an argument with someone, my nervous system immediately reacts. I say things I don't mean, I close off and maybe just stop speaking completely, and I don't handle it productively. The biggest skill I developed this year is removing myself from a situation, sticking on a nice guided headspace and relaxing my nervous system completely so that I can come back to the situation and handle it better. Your nervous system does not know whether you've had an argument with your boyfriend or you've got a deadline coming up in work that's stressing you out. But the management of getting to your nervous system and relaxing it is the exact same. 23, nurture connection. I saw this reel recently that really made me think about how this generation will hire movers or order Ubers to the airport or get Deliveroo groceries when we're sick, rather than asking our friends. A hypothesis for why females formed such strong relationships many moons ago is within a tribe, if the men went out hunting and the woman's male partner got killed, then because she had all the close female friendships back at the tribe, the other women would look after her. True, deep human connection is built on inconvenience. And we've become so disconnected, and loneliness really does kill. So allow yourself to be loved and cared for, and love and care in return. Life is a dish best experienced shared, so please don't forget that. And finally, 24, every day is a learning day. The easiest way that you can get 1% better every single day is make it your goal to just learn one new thing. If you want to learn something new today about your gut health, then there is a video just here. Or maybe you want to learn how I manage my salary in my millionaire payday routine, which I'll link here. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next video.